Hey there! What do you say there, world? Welcome back for another exciting episode of the Races Recap. We are going to talk about the amazing double finale episode and the incredible transformation of a team who raced 15 years ago to come back and not only do well, but do so much better than they did last time, even though they were incredible. My name is Justin, season 27.
Diana.
James Earl.
Jen.
And our guests today, Colin and Christie. What are you guys up to?
We're just out on a little hike, one of our favorite hikes. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you for being here.
You guys look at each other with such like you see into each other when you look at each other. It's so cute.
That's spot on.
Yeah, see into me. Intimacy. Into me see.
Oh, see this?
I like that.
We're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn a lot today. And as my other three co-hosts will tell you, I need some zen in my life. And we will get to that zen and see if you could just shoot some of that love that you guys are always talking about from Texas to help a brother out.
Always.
All right.
Justin, you have a lot of love in your heart.
So
I can
much.
already feel it. It is totally transmitted through your podcast every single week.
Yep.
Yes.
I can attest to that. He definitely has a lot of love.
You're right. I do have a lot of love, and I can feel the love. And my thing is to somehow, in my head, I justify my angst as passion, and I don't know, or whatever it is, that thing that pisses people off. I push it off as passion, and I feel that's passion, and I don't know what it is to turn that little switch to make,
just needs to sound better. That's what I think.
Colin, Chris, before we jump,
you probably just need to learn to give yourself a little bit more of a break.
Yeah.
That's probably true too.
Yeah.
Hey, can I ask y'all, what was it like when y'all got the call? Because I imagine y'all are 15 years out from the race now. You're thinking our days are long past. We really aren't going to be the people that are called to come back. What did y'all think when y'all got that call?
Well, the events unfolded quite synchronistically. We had not watched the race since our original season.
Wow.
When it aired live, because that was a traumatic experience for us. That was hard.
I didn't exactly like Colin from season 5 either, Justin.
Justin knows what that feels like.
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, it was because there was a lot of creative editing, but at the same time, it was just all of the above. It was really hard. And I knew that Colin was the villain of the show about 3 or 4 legs in, and I warned him. I said, hey, FYI, which he could not even imagine. He couldn't imagine, because for the most part, the fun, loving, very charismatic, cooperative person that Colin is today, that's who he was then. He just, both of us, like a lot of us, there wasn't a lot of resilience, so you're easily triggered. And as you guys know, running the race, it is a container. It is a hotbed for getting triggered. And so, of course, we were triggered quite often. There wasn't a lot of resilience, and that was the storyline. Ultimately, we come in second place. It was a beautiful storyline, season 5, like Chip and Cam, underdogs coming from behind. So every little argument, every little everything was highlighted on that show, and it was hard to watch. Colin slept on the couch quite a few times.
Many of times.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I spent many a night on the couch. I was like, that was 7 months ago. She's like, get your ass on the couch.
I was just letting him know, because for him, the reason it was hard for him to see the villain was because, for the most part, there was a lot of cooperation. We were helping and working with other teams. That wasn't being shown. And I kind of had a feeling based on the questions, the storytellers and the questions that you're getting in between the legs, you kind of figure it out along the way, what sort of one-dimensional character you're going to be. But anyway, a year ago, we decided to watch it. Top family rated show. We hadn't seen our season with our boys, Achilles and Cruz, 12 and 7. And we thought, okay, you know what? I think we're ready to watch this. And it's a great opportunity for us to, when the Africa scene comes, or the My Ox is Broken scene comes, that we can really talk through what happened there with our sons. And it could be a great life lesson, right? And a transmission of showing people can shift, because that's not who they know. So they're already going to watch going, who are these people?
Right.
And then in the process of doing that, we started remembering how much fun it was. And it was just like, wow, that was the most amazing experience we had. Like one of the best experiences ever. You guys know that. And so by the time we're watching the season finale in Jackson Hole, we're snowboarding, we're on the Teton Mountains, high vibrational mountain. And I just get this hit. I look at Colin, I'm like, we should do that again. And he's like, yeah, we should. And so
What a better way to like try this out and try this new way of being and see if it could actually be the most competitive way to run the race.
Yeah, well, that kind of unfolded like as we were dreaming into it. That same on the mountain, we were like, okay, let's text. It was a casting director that we still knew that thought, okay, she's probably still working on the show, and let's just let her know if you guys are having old racers on, like we're in. And because they wanted us to do the original All Stars, we found out we were pregnant with Achilles, so we couldn't do it. And then years passed, so they probably just kind of wrote us off. So we were like, hey, don't write us off. We're in if you want us back. And we didn't know they were already casting for this show.
Wow.
So literally 3 weeks later, they email us and let us know, hey, if you're serious, we're casting Reality All-Stars and we're leaving in June and you're in if you want to come. So that's how that happened.
That is awesome.
I love that.
That's
Holy
great.
crap.
Like serendipitous.
Well, it
Pretty
shows
wild.
that you got that this vibe stuff that a lot of people may think is like hokey or whatever, that they just don't understand, that you guys were literally on the vibe and you felt it, and they were in California already, like sending it out to you guys. I love this, man.
That's it, bro.
I really appreciate you guys coming on. This is going to be one of the best races recaps. I can already tell, because you guys are really open and honest, and it's not just giving cliche type answers. So,
And I do think your story was super important there, because it points out one thing that the people at home forget, especially the people online, is that who you're seeing on TV isn't the entire picture of a person. Like, I get that they're getting snippets and clips and like, you said these things and I did it. But everyone that's on the show has so much more depth to them as a person than you're getting on the TV. So it's always something to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There's going to be so many questions that people already had once I told them that you were on. We'll get to those. Let's run through the recap, and we'll get to the rest of the interview, so people stick around to the end so they can hear how Collin transformed from my ox is broken, forget it, take me to jail, I'm not paying you, like, all right, it's just love. Let's everybody just love. Feel the love in the air. Like, we thought you were going to lose it in the finale. Oh, we'll get to that. Here we go. Let's get it. All right, we start off in Netherlands, and everybody finds out they're heading to London. Going to pretty much be on the same flight. And this is when I look at I looked at the Twitterverse, and I'm like, leg 11 in England, they're setting it up for the Afghanimals to get eliminated for the third time in the fourth leg. Or give them redemption. It's happened a lot this season, so I know they put some thought behind this. England, Afghanimals.
You know they're sweating bullets. Like, they're sweating bullets. Like, if I ever went bad, I would hate India. Like, the moment I ripped the clue and it's like, you're going to India, I'd be like, shoot me now. I cannot take this. So you know they were dreading it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it starts with Colin and Christie. They heading on off, and they wait for Tyler and Korey. When did this relationship with you and Tyler actually, Tyler and Korey, like, when did that start?
From day one, literally. Like, when we walked in, so they brought us into the room, and you're not allowed to talk to any of the racers, and which was great. We actually appreciated that, because you walk in, and I think when people start talking, you get into language. That's when you sort of get into your left brain, but in your right brain is when you can start to really read a lot more of the energy about someone and what's really going on. So being in a state where you can't really talk to anyone and you can only meet them at their eyes, right, at that level, there was like instant connection with Tyler and Korey. It was, and I didn't know who Tyler was or Korey. We knew nothing at all. Had not watched their season, none of it. But there was just, it was in the eyes, and it was like, wow, this is like a soul tribe. Like, it was a connection at a deeper level.
Yeah, you could tell they were just super high vibing.
Yeah. And so for a week, when we're doing all of the press and getting ready to leave for the race, all you're doing is meeting eye contact with different people. But there was just a connection that we could feel with them. So the moment we could start talking, it wasn't any kind of strategy. It wasn't anything like that. It was just bonding at a friendship soul level.
I love this. I'm just
yeah.
I want to do like a couples retreat with the two of you and us.
Well, get ready.
Yeah, I was thinking.
That's so great. Yeah, I need.
That's called manifestation right there. You just painted the picture.
Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna be great. All right, so we get there, and the opposite of what you guys are talking about, as Victor walks past the Afghanimals, he doesn't even want to look at them. He feels the negative vibes like bounce. It's like a repel coming off them. Afghanimals. What did you guys think of the Afghanimals? I know you guys
loved them.
talking
They're
any
awesome.
negative about anything. But
Quite honestly, like, the fun part about once you kind of get perspective is you realize, like, every single person, like, we're all cut from the same cloth. We're all the same. Like, it's kind of trippy, but it's like, I am you trying out what it's like to be you, and you are me trying out what it's like to be me. It's like, once you really start seeing that, it's like, you can see the beauty in everybody's journey. And quite frankly, Leo and Jamal are also like pretty high vibing dudes for the vast majority of the time, for the most part.
But at a 3-dimensional level, which is more fun to talk about on a show like this, we knew. I mean, like, the Afghanimals are sneaky. They're sneaky players,
Yeah.
you know.
They have
and
fun with it.
yeah, exactly. They're having fun with
They're
it.
not trying to hide it.
They're not trying to hide it. So as
Yeah.
long as you know that, like, at a human to human level, these are good guys.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the race and knowing, like, they're going to take every opportunity they can to U-turn or get the cushion or tell you one thing and mean another, you just have to know that that's the way they're playing the game. And if you realize that, then you're good with it. There's no resentment. It's like, it is what it is, like the game of life. You're allowed to play it the way you want to play it.
I need some of that.
That's what somebody said, how do I get on this vibe frequency? Like, how does one learn to get this way? I'm like, that's why I'm setting up couples therapy right now, because we need this.
I've been through a lot of different types of therapy, and none of them really have seemed to work. The closest thing that's ever brought me to a different place was meditation, and that was
There you go.
And I've never followed through with it. I've done it in short spurts, and I've loved it, and I don't understand why I don't continue to do it. But it's
You know what, man? That's so funny you say that. I was literally just telling Christie earlier, it was today or yesterday, like, when I start falling off my meditation practice, which I find myself doing, my pattern is like, do all the things that really support my vibes and support my well-being, and everything starts firing, right? And I'm like getting sleep, and I'm not, I'm eating healthy, I'm meditating, I'm working out, and then everything just starts popping off at work, everything starts popping off in life, everything's lining up, and then I'm like, I start deep diving into those other things. I'm like, oh, I got this, I got there, I'm good. And then, oh, I don't need to meditate today. Oh, 2 days in a row. Oh, 5 days in a row. And then all of a sudden I find myself, yelling at the person in front of me in traffic, or yelling at them in my head, going, huh, where'd that come from? Oh yeah, I haven't meditated in 5 days. And it's like, it's the less you meditate, the harder it is to getting back into it. And the more you meditate, the easier it is to stay in it. But you got to stay in that cycle. And for me, I had to always remind myself not to give myself too much credit. It really is about doing the things that support you.
Mm-hmm.
I could listen to y'all talk for hours. I'm being legit too. Like, I could just sit there and listen to the two of y'all talk for hours.
Yeah,
Well, we can do the same. We love listening. We do sit around and listen to you guys talk for hours.
I always hated that it was like I had to wait till Sunday to get your recap. I was like, oh, all the other ones is Sunday. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we kept it here because this is unfortunately our season was on Sundays.
No, ours was Fridays.
Our season was on Fridays. We got the worst day.
Super fan over
So,
here.
jeez, I forget a lot of things. Okay. That's why you're here. You're the attention to detail. I look at big picture, you zoom in and get the little details. That's why we're a team, baby. All right, so the Afghanimals go right to the taxi stand, where that's the only place you could actually get a taxi in London. Super surprised that the rest of the teams did not do their research and find this out before landing.
Well, the Afghanimals didn't either.
No.
If you paid attention, the
we
Cavs
asked
told them.
someone, and they told us very clearly, you cannot get a taxi outside. You must go to the taxi stand.
Yeah.
And then we just followed everyone outside.
Someone else.
I don't know what happened, but
Someone else said that no, you don't have to do that. So we were getting these conflicting reports, and so the original information that we got was that you did have to go to the taxi stand.
And it was in a kind of a sneaky place. You know how you have kind of like double automatic doors, and it's kind of to keep the AC in or whatever. Yeah. And so the taxi stand was right between the two sets of doors, kind of hidden in there. So if you just walk out of the first sliding door and walk right through the next sliding door, you just walked past the taxi stand. So we kind of thought that this taxi stand was outside, like all the way outside. So it was a little hidden, but we should have known better. Yeah. That's called being in a big rush and starting to get super attached to winning.
Yeah, getting that lizard brain.
That's right.
All right. So the Afghanimals get a lead, and they get the taxi. Everybody else seems like to have to go back inside and call the taxis or ask the taxi stand to help them out. So the Afghanimals are off to a big lead. Did anybody else notice that the Afghanimals had a Tesla taxi?
Yes,
No.
I did. And I thought for sure they didn't book that at the taxi stand. Like, how are they hopping in the Tesla right now? Like, they didn't have to do this. And then we watched the show. I was like, oh yeah, they did it right. They booked it in the stand.
I'm like, yo, what kind of taxi drivers do they got in England? They got Teslas. Like,
I know, right?
Balling. I wouldn't be driving a Tesla, whatever. All right, so it start off. Everybody's running around, getting things done, and then one of the best things about the Amazing Race, especially near the end, is Bertram and Elise love to show the beauty of all these countries. And there's no better way to see a beauty of a country than taking a helicopter ride right along the water, the White Cliffs, Dover Castle. I mean, a helicopter ride on the Amazing Race, I think they do it every season, and they do it for a reason. This is something that we all look forward to. Just travel porn.
Did not get a helicopter ride.
Oh,
wait, you didn't, Jen?
We didn't get a helicopter ride. I'm so sad.
Oh, that's crazy.
We didn't on season 5, I don't think. And we got 2 on this season. They were both gorgeous.
Transportation situations, I feel like
Y'all really did. There was a lot of cool, like going to pit stops and like going from place to place.
Yeah, zip lining into a pit stop.
Yes.
And the train ride in Switzerland was unbelievable. Some cool ones.
Trains, boats, planes, helicopters. You guys literally traveled everywhere. You could bicycles.
And it was just like, enjoy this helicopter ride and look at the beautiful view. It wasn't like you had to set anything, or you could just really enjoy it, that moment.
Which is such a rare moment on a race, right?
Yes.
In the middle of racing. So you really appreciate that when you get it.
Yeah.
Most of the time you're like, okay, what am I looking for?
Yeah.
Is there like a flag somewhere?
Something's happening. We're in this helicopter for a reason. Look around. So paranoid. All right.
Let's name.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We get to the roadblock. Who can't keep a secret? Seemed to be pretty straightforward about everybody who wanted to pick which detour or which roadblock to do. Basically had to crack a code and type it out on the typewriter. You listen to a speech, got some keywords, use those keywords to solve the puzzle. It wasn't your best moment on the race, Christie, but it also showed a lot of your character and your resilience. A word that you used earlier about pushing through and finishing off what you started. Because a lot of times you could just be like, "That's it, we're done," and kind of mope along the whole rest of the race and just lose it there.
And then even like the support column that you had on the outside, like not knowing kind of what's going on, but sending her like the positive vibes and kind of like oozing that confidence that she can do it, even though you don't know what's happening and you can't help her.
Also, we're kind of skipping ahead because there were other people that finished this task before Christie, but when Christie came back from finishing, Colin's reception of her, I was blown away, because when you're waiting for your partner in a roadblock, like you're sitting there thinking about like where we need to go next. And when that partner comes back to like just take time to celebrate them and like praise them for what they just got through and not spend a second like frantically like we need to go, like get in the helicopter, you know what I mean? I was impressed.
Oh, thank you for that.
It's literally the opposite of how the Afghanimals handled every task. When one person was being terrible, the other one was outside letting him know he was terrible through the vibes. Like, you're terrible. I should have done it. You're terrible.
Leo killed that, though.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Christie.
I feel like it was meant to be. Looking back on it, so obviously it was my turn to do the roadblock, and when I found out it was decoding, I'm more of a right brain, not a left brain. So I was already in my head about it, and all of these sort of deep-seated fears of we're going to lose the race and it's going to be all on my shoulders. It's going to be my fault. And it was just interesting that it's the story arc 2 in season 5. You didn't have that certain amount of roadblocks that you had to do. So Colin, not for me being incapable, but Colin being so capable at so many different things, we just strategically said he would do most of the roadblocks. So coming back, even if it wasn't part of the rules, we would have split the roadblocks. That was a big part of the transmission of us wanting to come back, was really to show that masculine feminine balance in our relationship. That was a big part of it. And so this was for me to do. But as I'm walking there, and it's actually quite a ways from where Collin was to where the castle and the actual roadblock was. And so I have time to think about and get a little in my head about it. And I really feel like if I'd been there by myself, like Leo was, and I just decided to do it on my own and know that this is for me to do and I can take care of it, I probably would have gotten through it pretty quickly, because once I did throw away, when I finally got it, it was because I threw away everything and I started from scratch. And that's when it automatically clicked. So I think going in and already being in my head and working with Korey, we were teams that were working together. I think that really kind of hurt me more than helped me. And
you kind of were leaning on him a little bit, and kind of hoping,
yeah,
like, hey, just help me out, give me the answer, versus like just doing it on your own.
Yeah,
you'd have been
just
fine.
having the confidence of knowing that this is something that I can do. Why am I questioning that?
Just Christie, two things. First off, I want to say that I don't know if you saw the pre-task assessment before the season started. I said the biggest concern I had for y'all was the fact that Collin did most of the roadblocks in your first season, and I was worried about how you would handle this in the season. I want to say you blew it out the water. So you proved me and everyone else wrong, blew it out the water. Second, I have a question.
Badass.
She really is. I have such a crush on y'all as a couple. You don't even know. But my question is, when the perception that I got on TV when I was watching this is that when Korey and you were helping each other out, Korey was kind of leading taking the lead on it, and you were kind of just trying to help and follow and fill in some gaps. But then he got it and kind of just said, "Oh, this is how you do it," and left. So you were kind of stuck in the water where you were. Is that how it really felt in real life, or is that just the edit from TV?
I think most of what you said is correct. We both got the words from the speech. That was easy. And I think actually I'm the one who figured out the original, the second part of the coding. So okay. I did help him with that. And then he figured out sort of the third part. But I do think there was that part of me that was kind of relying on us working together, as opposed to just having the full confidence that I could do this on my own. Something that isn't shown in, and we talk about this on their podcast, Coco Caliente with Nick and Vic, is that when Korey actually left one time to go get it checked, and it was incorrect, he had to come back. And while he was away, I did help Nick or Vic, who was way off on what he was doing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was just down some other rabbit hole and for us, we kind of went into the race with a more collaborative a more collaborative mindset than competition, meaning that my helping Vic, which I knew he very much wanted it in that space, and I mean he asked for it, we worked together. It's just not, I guess I don't know why it wasn't part of the storyline. I guess the storyline was that the three race teams were sort of trying to not prevent Nick and Vic from coming into which was just, that was fabricated, not true. At least not on our part, but I don't. So maybe with the other teams, but not. That was not part of our thing.
No, we thought they were awesome.
Yeah, I would have been just fine with them being in the top 3. In fact, I thought it would have been interesting because it would have been a non-race team in the top 3. But anyway, so I help him and he figures it out and gets it. You know, Korey comes back, he got it incorrect, and then Vic figures out and he's like, "See ya."
Oh.
Brutal.
But the thing is that for us, again, that cooperative mindset is that you get what you give. So my agenda is not to help him in order for him to help me back. It was more like, I know that being in it's like being a cooperative component, things are coming together in like the sense of getting the right taxi cab, or the challenges are the perfect challenge, or they're just hard enough that it's going to take other teams 2 hours for, you know, where we can come in and kind of do that challenge because we're more prepared for it, or our skill set is more in line with that. You would notice and see that happening when you're working at that more energetic, that kind of higher level of the race, that as long as you're staying in that, again, unconditional love or that cooperative space, that cooperative components would come out and they just seem to work out. So, my thoughts on the overall thing is that it was meant to be. I was meant to do that roadblock. I was meant to be challenged by it so that I could kind of, like, for my own life experience, go through that and realize, oh, wow, I can do this on my own. I meant to do this on my own. And so that Colin would have that opportunity to really hold space for me in a way, like even in our relationship, which has grown a lot, like that was another level for our relationship, because I also did not know how he was going to be when I came back after an hour and a half is how far behind we were.
Oh, wow.
And I had no idea. So for him to be able to do that, for us to have that moment in the helicopter ride, that was something special for us that we were able to do. And then we were able to have this really badass come from behind, which was amazing. And I absolutely believe that doing that is what helped us win in the final leg, like going through that together and holding space for each other in that way. So I feel like it just all happened exactly as it was supposed to happen.
That's incredible mindset. So Leo and Victor on screen looked like crushed this task, and the two people that were working together seemed to struggle, and I think it was for the reason that you guys said, kind of leaning on each other rather than just doing it and then helping each other. And Korey was a little sneaky. He helped you, but instead of giving you the cipher to figure it out, he could have just told you the words and just had you, and you could have.
For sure. And to his credit, or to his point that he kind of makes in the show, is like, look, it's the top 3, or it's the top 4, it's the leg deciding the top 3, and at this point we're the last 2 teams.
I must say,
so and he knows that Colin and I are strong. If he just gives that to me, the likelihood.
Yeah, and it's almost like a you know, an unsaid understanding, I think, between their team and our team. You know, it's like Christie was asking me the other day when we were watching the race how Tyler and I get into the elevator at the same time on the next leg, and she was like, "How was that?" And I was like, "It was cool. It was just almost like, you know, you're a fellow competitor, you're in the middle of the race, and it's like we're now at the stage where we're not going to be just like working together every bit of the time, but it was like totally cool." And you know, like we're not helping each other's teams with the drum sets, or, you know, by the time we got into that stage, it's like, okay, you know, this is what we helped each other get to here, but now let's go run our own races. So that's totally understandable.
Yeah.
And there's no fault to Korey in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even know how in love we are with those guys. Like, seriously, they are just incredible.
Well, I talk to Korey a lot, and I promise you I know, because he talks about y'all all the time.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we love them.
Yeah.
Jen?
Oh, I was just going to say, it's so reminiscent of our Hong Kong leg, which was our leg before the final with me and Christie, where we kind of fell behind and we're struggling, and we were really close with the IndyCar guys, Alex and Connor. And when we got to that suitcase task, like, we withheld information, and it like felt not right, but it also was so the right thing, because we knew at that point, like, it's us or them, and we know what we came here to do, and we got to make that decision. But I think you guys I commend you for your perspective on it, because it's not always easy. And there is, this line between, you make genuine bonds with people and friendships on the race, but you're also competing. So it's a delicate dance.
That challenge, by the way, seemed incredibly difficult. I was like, either they're making this look harder on TV than it really is, but that, like, how in the hell were you supposed to see some weird neon sign? I mean, I've been on that street many times, and
there's so
crazy.
many neon signs.
It's like, how on earth were you guys figuring that out? I was like, I hope we don't get something that hard on ours.
We were just going through random numbers in the taxi on the way there, and we got into the upper 200s, and our number in the end was 315. And had we just kept going with the random numbers in the taxi, we would have opened it without ever needing to step foot in the streets.
It was the same number on both sides of the lock, or was it a single lock?
Yes, it was the same. And Christie and I actually had a back and forth about that, because she's like, well, this is how these locks work. And I'm like, but it's the Amazing Race. Can we just make that assumption? Like, what if it's not? So yes, it was the same, but I wasn't sure if it was a 6-digit or a 3-digit thing. So it's crazy.
So
anyway, enough about that.
Yeah, Christie falls behind by 90 minutes, and in the helicopter finally breaks down, lets the tears out, and this is when Collin comes in and just zens her back into the right mindset, moves forward, headed to the pier, and then to the Piccadilly Circus, but you do it via speedboat. Another awesome way to travel down the River Thames, not the River Thames. Thank
you for that, Justin.
I love the River Thames. Really? Can you say it right? It's detour.
I like this guy.
Detour, no or row. For no, you have to memorize a taxi route, 15 streets, 7 points of interest. And I have a new respect for taxi drivers in London, as they have to learn the whole city and all of its landmarks before they can actually get a taxi license. It's now I know why they hated Uber when Uber got put on in London. They were like, these guys don't have to know anything. So I appreciate them a whole lot more. And then this is when Diana got super excited for the rowing. You had to row a 2-seat Olympic rowboat, 200 meters in a minute. Every team chose to do that, which I think was the smarter one, because you find yourself in a tough task that you could just power through. You could make up a lot of time, which was the mindset that Colin and Christie had as they fell behind. And it seemed to pay off for them. Everybody seemed to struggle with the rowboats. For those of you who don't know, I want to brag on my wife. She was a champion.
I used to row 8s in high school. And
won nationals.
The 8 was a single oar, but there was a summer that a couple of us, rowed those doubles that you had. And I mean, even we flipped, being experienced rowers, because I mean, it's not like a typical wide boat. I mean, that is about just as wide as your body is. The most important thing above all is balance. And you guys had a great strategy where, Christie, you ended up just keeping the boat balanced, and Colin, you beasted it through. But I mean, I know that is not an easy boat to row.
Yeah, that was my husband rowed for Ohio State and literally said the exact same thing. He's like, no one learns to row a boat in a boat. You don't do that.
You learn to row, like if you row those doubles, you row it in what we would call like a bitch, like a boat that's, twice as wide as you are, that really cannot tip over. But I mean, those boats, those are skinny and those are really difficult. So I give you all the props in the world. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It was much harder than I was getting. I was like, oh, rowing, cool. I've seen so many videos of people rowing. It looks so elegant and graceful.
Right?
I'll just pretend like I'm in that video and I'll be like, change fire. Come on, let's
go. And the balance, correct me if I'm wrong, again, just stealing information from my husband, but he's saying like, it's actually easier to keep balance like a bicycle once you're moving. So everybody who's like still and trying to like figure it out, like that's where you're most vulnerable.
And there's so many. Sorry, go ahead, Christie.
No, go for it.
I was going to say there's so many components to rowing a boat like that. It's, like, because you have to feather your oars, move and make sure that your oars are flat against the water, or else you call what we would call, I don't know if it's like a universal term, but you'd catch a crab where your oar would go into the water the wrong way and it would like swing back and get you. So I said to Justin, I mean, it's really, really difficult to I mean, just to row, even 200 meters.
Yeah, we figured out that it was easier to balance when you were moving. So we would actually start before we even hit where they started doing the countdown. We were already had a momentum going.
Mhm.
And so that's what allowed us to have, propel into the starting line. So to give us a fighting chance to actually make it to the finish line, which as the day went on, the wind picked up. Like even the Olympian, the girl, total badass that was helping us. Of course, she can't really help us. So in true Amazing Race fashion, they just like hand you a boat and it's like, go figure it out. That's how you're doing it, which is why no one could figure it out. And Colin kind of had a strategy where he was asking certain questions to figure out if one person could have the ability to row by themselves and make it within the minute. He wanted to kind of get an idea of like how long it would take her if she were to do it. And I think you got the sense that it would take her about half the time.
Yeah, you're always trying to like milk these guides for info. Production's told them not to help you or whatever, but I was like, oh, she could easily do this in probably half the time. And then kind of like look at her response,
Nice.
She's like, well, not half. But I'm like, okay, cool. Probably like 35
Close
seconds.
enough.
So maybe I could do it in 60 by myself.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to work out. Like in high school, I was like, what kind of pace would we have kept if I had to row 200 meters in 1 minute? Well, we would do that in like 45 seconds to 30 seconds. Well, not 30, if an Olympian does it in half, but it was probably about 45 seconds that in high school that we would maintain that pace. But we'd row like 2,000 meters in a race.
Yeah.
I will say though about this detour too, because Mom and myself are not the physical team. We're never going to be the physical team that's going to be competing against like the Colin and Christie or the Jen and Christie. Like we're the mental team. I loved how balanced this detour was. So it was like a super tough mental challenge, but it was a super tough physical challenge.
Yes.
Yeah, I had that in my notes. I think this was the most balanced task of the whole season, and it was one of the most fun to watch because I think that these two were the hardest task detours of the whole season, and I wish that for a season like this, they were all this hard. It should be
Me too.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yes, I would have liked them to be that difficult every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Tyler and Korey, Nick and Vic both flipped the boat multiple times. Then Colin and Christie show up after 90 minutes. First leg, we did the same thing. We went to a fast forward. I was in the cab crying on the way back, thought it was all over. We show up and there's a couple teams there, and then this adrenaline rush comes right through your body, and you feel like you could do anything. I think that almost gave you guys an advantage when you got there because you had this adrenaline rush, and everybody else was just in this down struggle mode. Is that kind of how you guys felt when you showed up?
100%. Nail on the head there. It was like that gave us so much of a boost of energy to know like, holy crap, like, there's two teams here and they're like struggling with this. Like, yeah, I'm sure this is going to take us a bit, but like the boost of energy that we got knowing like we are technically back in this race because we're here with two other teams.
Yeah. And you could tell by watching them, they were not anywhere close to getting them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how long they had been there, but they were not anywhere close to actually getting it. So, Tyler and Korey leaving right away when they saw us get there was a very smart move.
Yep.
That is pro racer. We got to know when to cut losses and move to the next one. And also they know that Korey's really good at those memory kind of challenges. So that was a really good move on their part.
I was just about to talk about this because I think Afghanimals got in the boat, rocked, immediately switched. If you're going to switch, that's the time to do it. And then I was just about to ask, Tyler and Korey switched after a couple tries, like 3 tries. Is it right to switch after that, or are you getting the hang of it and you should just continue?
If you saw how hard they don't show it. Like those teams, like were nowhere even close.
Yeah.
Like, our first several tries as well, before we realized that we could like actually start getting some speed up before the starting line, which allowed us to take multiple runs at it. Because so often we just would fail getting to the starting line, and then we could just like not waste our time trying to do the course. They were all starting at a stop at the starting line. I mean, these teams literally were probably making it 30 meters in a minute if they were lucky. Like,
that's huge.
Like they're not even getting started, And so I think by the time they had done that a few tries, And they're looking at it going, we're not even getting like a quarter or a third of the way there. Like, let's get out of here. I think.
And Justin, the thing too with this one is it's important to remember too, like you're not going to keep getting better and better with time, but at some point you're going to crown and get tired and just start tanking.
Yeah, and rowing.
I worried about that for us.
Yeah, I mean that's a total body. It's not just legs. It's not just arms. That literally is your entire body. But that's super smart to get almost like a rolling start because, I mean, really the starts, especially like if they say go, you're almost like getting flustered trying to get your oars in together. That the rolling start was, really smart.
How did
really
you even
good.
think to do that? That you knew that you could do that?
I'm surprised they let you. Oh, you did?
Yeah, I asked the guy at the starting line, like, do we have to be stopped right here? Like, where can we start? And he goes, you can start wherever you want. It's just when you pass me, I start the timer. And so I was like, okay.
And you guys got it by 1 second. So I think this.
Yeah, 1 second.
And the crazy thing is that particular time, you'll notice if you watch it again, but that time I fell off the seat halfway through the course. So I was sitting in the bottom of the, what do they call it, a skip or a skid?
Yeah, I mean,
a boat. Yeah, I was sitting in the bottom of the hull of this boat. And I was just like, well, we had a good first half, where I like was able to use my legs and everything. And so I just powered through with my arms.
That's crazy. Because the whole point of those boats is the movable seat so you can use your legs.
Yeah.
So you'll see if you watch it again, my upper body's just moving back and forth. I'm not on the seat.
We were all distracted by the freaking muscles when he took the shirt off.
Said Colin looked hot, capital hot, rowing that boat.
Yeah, it wasn't hot.
Thank you for that.
The one other note that I'll make for the Tyler and Korey decision is that when Korey left the roadblock, he was pretty confident Christie was going to be right behind. So if they went to the boat, they might have thought that Colin and Christie were doing the other detour. Mm-hmm. So I think seeing them there was like, oh, like we still have the opportunity to switch, where they might have thought like we've been here too long and we shouldn't switch. So just throwing that out.
Yeah. I could totally see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense. That's why we got such a diverse cast here, because we get all the different angles. People see things from different angles. I love that.
And I just want to clear this up on the rowing. So I do not just hold the oars. And maybe you guys who know this, like I had broken my wrist on that same snowboarding trip that we decided we wanted to go on the race. I'd broken my wrist. But actually what was happening is to steady the boat, I had to hold the oars so that the oar is like flat up against the water. Okay. Yeah. That was no easy feat. Like to hold that's what actually kept us balanced. Yep. So I'm balancing us as Collin is doing the rowing. Yes. So that was with my broken wrist.
And she's trying not to like put the oars in the water too much, because if she creates too much drag, as you know, then we're not going to hit our time. So it was like skim the water, keep us balanced, but which allows me to go, but don't catch a crab, don't rotate the paddle and dunk it. It was like it was definitely a very much a two-person team effort thing.
And it's not just like you're sitting there holding the oars. Like you said, you really have to counterbalance every stroke that Collin takes that's not, perfectly in the water. I mean, you're fighting the oars. It's not just like, oh, you're sitting there.
That's right.
Exactly.
Absolutely not what it's like.
Yeah. Exactly. Like that was a very physically taxing challenge
you guys,
for both of us.
You literally balanced each other out on that task.
Literally.
That was like a theme of the race this year.
And now on the other side, everybody's in this taxi, and I love the hats. That would have been the favorite part of this.
I could totally see that hat on you.
Did anyone else notice that the landmarks and the routes were actually on a piece of paper that was right in front of the racers? And I
didn't notice that.
I think it was just a map. I think it was just a map on them. I don't think it had it marked.
Where?
Like right behind the dude.
No, not behind the dude. So the cab driver, when he's talking it out, his finger is down here, down to the left on the bottom. So where like the cigarette lighter would be, there's a white piece of paper he's reading off of. And he's telling right on so-and-so. And then he has his finger where he stops. Left on so-and-so. And I'm looking at it like, oh my God, I learned so much better that way. So just look over and you can see
notice that.
If you would have just read it.
Mm-hmm.
So You had one person reading it, the other person listening.
But I don't know how high it was, like, because there was kind of a partition. It looked like of glass, maybe, and then like a solid.
Yeah, if the
partition.
racers could see it.
Right, like if it was
Maybe
low
that's why
enough
Jamal
that-
was sleeping. I don't know.
I was just about to get to that. Like, what the heck is going on? This is the leg they get eliminated on, and he's sleeping.
He's like, look, Leo, you look at that piece of paper. I'm gonna take a quick ninja nap here.
They
Wake
did
me up when we
split
get
it
there.
up, so maybe he just needed to go into his bubble and repeat
I think
his
that's
stuff
what I
over
was
and over
thinking.
again.
That's what I was thinking what was happening.
Yeah, I think it was sleeping and the times they weren't actually going over it, and you know
Or
how.
closing his eyes and going over his.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You know how they like to do on the race. You know how they
It
like
was
to
so
do.
funny though.
Yeah.
The Afghanimals get it on their 5th try. This seems like something that nobody's going to get on their 1st try, and depending on how fast of a learner and the type of learner you are, maybe you could get a little advantage, which was Tyler and Korey, which got it on their 3rd try. And Tyler gave all the credit to Korey, and knowing Korey as we do, this is one of his strengths and something that he would have looked forward to. Also, James Earl.
I would have loved this challenge in a heartbeat. The moment Mom and I read this, we would have gone and been done.
And you look cute in one of those hats too.
This was a challenge meant for me.
Yep.
Yeah. It's definitely a challenge where people's skills can make a difference, and it's not just like, learning curve. Everybody's going to get it right around the same time. So it made a big difference. Nick and Vic got it on their 4th try, which was pretty well. And then you had to head to the camp.
Is that true? Did they get it on their 4th try?
Yeah, I think so.
I heard someone say the other day that Jamal and Leo did it their 5th, and Nick and Vic and Tyler and Korey both did it their 3rd. But I thought only Tyler and Korey did it on their 3rd.
Well, on the screen, I only know what they showed on the screen, and on the screen it was like
They
They
fourth
said 4th
try.
try. Oh,
Yeah.
4th try.
Some other podcast was saying that they both did it
No,
3rd try, and I
4th try.
thought only Korey and Tyler did that.
Yeah, but they're not the racist recap, so they don't really do as much research.
You know what? Exactly. That's right.
So Colin and Christie get it on their 6th try, 59 seconds, and an actual super impressed with that. And then they head to the Camden Market to the pit stop. But wait, we got to go on a scavenger hunt first.
This.
I hated this. I loved it, but I promise you, I was gutted. I was gutted for the racers when they showed up, and you think you're there. Like, people at home don't understand. Like, when you get to the mat and you know there's a team behind you, and like you're just so relieved. Like, you have that sigh of relief when the 2 feet hit the mat and you're done. For Phil to pull out another clue, like, I was gutted at home, so I could not even imagine.
So brutal.
When you get to the mat, you can like turn off, and then just to realize, like, no, we're kind of still going. Did you think it was a keep on racing leg?
No, when we got there, we could see that Leo and Jamal were putting together something from the
Gotcha.
market, and Korey and Tyler about halfway through. So we kind of had an idea right away, but luckily we were there. Well, we didn't know where Nick and Vic were,
Yeah.
but we were, so I
We were
mean,
there probably a half hour before
Yeah.
they got there or something.
Wow. I was going to ask you how long before they actually showed up, because they
Yeah,
thought
because you see, like, we're wrapping up. We have like just the boots left to get, I think,
Yeah.
when they're like bringing their trunk and maybe a corset, like their first load of stuff over, and you got to find like 8 things. It took a little while to find everything.
Yep. So all the racers have to run around stealing things from stores.
Exactly. The shoplifting.
So funny.
And everyone seemed to love the Cyber Dog, which had the cool lights and the music. Everybody went in there and just immediately started dancing. Colin, I made a comment about your dancing in the other episode. I was a dancer back in the day, and you have some unique moves I've never seen. Where did these moves come from? Is it just let your body move, or are these moves
That's
that
a
you're
good
known
question.
for?
Yeah, I have my most unique moves when I'm deep in psychedelics, and I let the music play my body. But,
Take those on the
that's probably
retreats.
That's probably just residual. That's probably just residual stuff.
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
but it's static. It's more
leftover.
a static dance, like
Yeah.
let it move through the body.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
more
that's
like
awesome.
8-year-old just bouncing off the walls left in me.
I love it though. You seem literally every leg. You seem to be having fun. Whether it's like
We had a
Rolling
really
out of
good
the
time.
helicopter.
rolling out of the helicopter army style, hurtling over stuff. Like, you guys just seem to be having fun, and I'm so glad that it turned out the way it did, because it shows you can run the race differently than a lot of other.
Man,
Yeah, that roll out of the helicopter, I had no idea he did that until I saw that on TV. So that was like,
wasn't it awesome? That
mooning
makes me
Tyler
like,
and Korey. I had no idea. I was
So
like literally
good.
watching it and learning about it, which is fun. It was like being surprised and delighted.
Oh yeah.
Come home.
So Tyler and Korey seemed to help Colin and Christie and let them know where a couple things were, keeping that friendship and helping each other, and also trying to keep Nick and Vic out.
Also, Colin, I love that you spoke up. Like, just you were asking for the favor. Like, hey, I told you. You told me. Like, I'm not going to beat you at this point. Let me know so I can stay in this. Like,
yeah, for sure. We, and they show so little of it throughout the race, but we helped them a lot throughout the race.
Well, we help each other a lot.
We both were.
Yeah.
We both were.
It just wasn't part of the story.
So I had no
early on.
problem being like, throw me a bone, bro. Where are those boots? We can't find them. And now that you told me, I'll walk in the store and then I'll leave the store without the boots.
Yeah.
Maybe
You're
there's
like,
a
this
second
can't be
disco.
it.
Yeah. We were in there. It seemed like a long time looking for those boots. And I was like, maybe there's another store with loud dance.
there's another disco with loud music and naked dancers on the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
The Afghanimals finished their redemption and get a first place. They didn't say that there was a prize. I don't know. Did they get a prize? Do you guys know if there was a prize?
No, I don't think there was a prize on that leg.
No.
They didn't have a
Let's
prize in Hong Kong
let's
either.
just say, wouldn't it have been really awesome if we got to go to America in first class? That would have been amazing.
I was shocked. That's the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I know.
We didn't. No.
I would say 28, 29, and 30 all went in first class in the final leg.
Yeah, so wouldn't that have been
That would have been
interesting?
really nice, and especially for the first place team. And poor Leo and Jamal, I don't think they got a prize for that. The prize they got was redemption. They got to stay in the race. They made it past
something.
that
Can't put a
dreaded.
price tag on redemption.
And then Tyler and Korey finish in second. Korey gets emotional, and I love when teams get emotional, not just because I cried like a baby a bunch of times and like to see other people do it to make me feel better, but I like to see people who really care about being on the race and really care. Like you can see the passion. Just you get there and it just let it out and release it. And I love watching them do that. Also, Christie gets there and she's emotional as well. Nick and Vic finish up. Nicole cries a little bit.
That has to be gut wrenching because like you can see they didn't even finish the task because they knew like they were out. That has to be gut wrenching to show up and see most of the teams finished. You know you're going to be in last place unless some miracle happens, but like you know it's not going to happen in that situation.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah. And that's going to end that episode. We got a couple things we need to do. James Earl, who's getting your seal clap for this episode?
My seal clap is actually going to Colin for how he responded to Christie in that roadblock. It was just perfection and everything, and made me so happy. And it was just like, it was everything that I wanted.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Jen, extreme, who's getting it?
I'm giving the extreme move to Tyler and Korey for switching detours when Colin and Christie got there. Because I think that took some guts, and I don't think that Nick and Vic would have switched if they didn't switch. So I think it was a good move for them.
Yep.
I don't have anybody in check. I feel like everyone kind of they were good partners.
Really?
Oh, look at that.
Though, because you're like on the show. You're here.
I know. The first time she's here and hanging out with us, she's not putting
I have
anybody
one
in
for
check.
the finale.
Okay.
I definitely have one for the next
Yeah,
episode.
I know that. Yeah, and I mean, my super fan move was, and it's not just because you guys are here, but it's this pretty much the same as the seal clap. Like to be able to take your partner from a super, super low and turn that around because you know this is just the beginning of the leg. I'm going to definitely give it to Collin for the Zen moment, just putting it in there. Christie for powering through and getting through and believing enough in your partner that you just allowed it to happen. You allowed him to Zen you and you didn't fight it. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
All right, let's head to Detroit where the Afghanimals are the kings of the race. I know they kept
But good for them. Confidence is key. Their average is not so much.
I tweeted about it. Diana kind of yells at me for stuff like this. But, I mean, if you win 6 legs and out of 34, you're not the kings. You just happen to be invited back a lot. I mean, we were on one season and we won more legs than you in 3 seasons. How are you the kings of the Amazing Race? Like, stop it. Like, you were just the most fortunate to be invited back. Get out of here. Diana's not going to say anything because she hates when I do this stuff. This might be something that you guys need to help me with.
We can work on this. Don't worry.
Thanks.
Yeah,
So,
because it's authentic, it's real. That's how you feel.
So instead of saying, are the Afghanimals the kings of the race, let's just go around. Who would you say are the kings of the Amazing Race? I, unfortunately, and I'm not a big fan of this team because of a lot of their beliefs, I think that the Cowboys are the kings of the race because they are the most popular team, and everybody, even though they ran 3 times, still wants them to come back. And even though they ran in jeans, they still want a bunch of legs. If anything, I would say that they're more kings of the race. But no, who would you say are the kings of the Amazing Race?
I don't know. Come back to me.
No? James Earl?
I mean, I like kings and queens of the races.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Yeah. I think we have
Um,
the kings and the queens right here.
there's a lot that comes
Yeah,
to
we don't have
mind.
to answer this. I
I don't like this question.
Terrible
Okay,
question.
we'll skip it. We'll move ahead. I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable.
I was
Let's
going to say Bertram and Elise.
Bertram and
Yes.
the king and queen.
Great
There you
answer.
There
yeah,
you
they are
go.
the king and queen, and if we're gonna
Or if it's the Kings, it's Matt and Pat.
Matt and
There you
Pat.
go.
And for those of you who don't know, Matt and Pat are 2 of the executive producers who pretty much ask you the questions at the end of the race. They're the ones that kind of build that, help build the storyline by getting the questions out of you and getting the answers that they want out of you. Both are super, super nice people, and one of them might be on the Races Recap the next 2 weeks.
Oh, awesome.
All right, so let's get to moving, as we can all unanimously agree
Baby to get back to.
that the Afghanimals are not the kings of the Amazing Race. As Tyler and Korey are from Michigan, and will it help being from Michigan? The final leg in your home city has not been very nice to a lot of people, including the New Yorker. So I could definitely relate to what's coming up for you with the taxi drama. 2 out of the 3 teams have made the final 3. Is that an advantage?
Yes.
You think so? Having been in the final leg is an advantage, even though the Afghanimals got to the 4th leg twice?
The pressure of the final leg is unlike any other leg.
Yep.
Because it's the final. It doesn't matter what else you did the entire race. And a lot of teams have the mentality, we didn't personally, but like all you need to do is survive the other legs. And then when you get to the final leg, then you want to turn it on and try to win. So if you've been playing in that space, which in some ways Leo and Jamal this season kind of were, then yeah, I think all of a sudden you're trying to turn it on and you're under a lot more pressure than you've been in, and things can come apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's a lot easier to detach from winning on legs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, because we come in 2nd, 3rd, no big deal. But I would say the stakes definitely going into the top 3, and then that final leg, it's just a whole other level. I mean, as you can see when I lose it in the taxi,
Yeah.
a lot more attached.
I love Christie
Would not have
losing it.
happened. Yeah, that would not have happened on one of the earlier legs because it's just not the same as being on the final leg.
Yeah, and having possibly had the opportunity to be on the season, because obviously we got asked to be on, but Diana was pregnant, so we couldn't. We see the final city is Detroit, another city that I've lived in. Knew exactly where pretty much everything was that they talked about, including the Spirit of Detroit, the Guardian Building, the Folding. I knew exactly where all of that stuff was. Hart Plaza. I knew exactly where all that was because I went touristing less than about a year ago, 2 years ago. I was going around doing all that, so I knew exactly what all that was. I was super excited to see it all play out. The Roadblock. Who's good with numbers? Is there any? All right, when you're picking who's going to do this, was there any inclination that it wasn't going to be like a math type of thing, or did you have any inclination beforehand, or was it just a?
Well, I don't know that we did. We figured it would probably be somewhat complex in nature, and it was super simple. It said who's good with numbers. I mean, like, I'm the numbers guy of our group, so it was just like it was a very easy one to go, yeah, well, I'm good with numbers.
But also strategically, even why I did the roadblock in the leg before was because we wanted Colin to do the roadblock on the final leg. Like that was a decision made.
Was Dallas your final city in season 5?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're from Texas. We're from Austin.
Right.
Not exactly the same, but yeah, we kind of had that curse sort of happened to us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Detroit is not where Tyler and Korey are from, but obviously you have to fly into there to get to their small town where they're at. All right, so the Guardian building, about 500 feet in the air. They had to do a little Australian-style rappelling and get 4 numbers, use those numbers to crack the combination into a safe. And Colin lied and said he was scared of heights. Like, there's no way you're scared of heights. You're like Mr. Extreme. How are you possibly scared?
Well, yeah, I get very scared when I'm up high. I don't know. Maybe that's everybody, but like when I bungee jump or skydive or anything like that, like there's definitely a, like if I'm on top of a cliff, some people will like walk right up to the edge and look off. Like I stay away from the edge for sure. Like I definitely have I'll jump off of a 75-foot bridge into the water or something like that. But in terms of like heights where if you fall off, you're dead. Yeah, I definitely have a fear of heights, which is what makes those types of things much more fun for me.
Yeah, I think that's why you do it, because it's like it's a thrill.
Yeah,
so,
do scary things.
Yeah. We went to like the Cliffs of Moher in Ireland, and here this one literally is walking to the edge and like sitting on the edge with his feet dangling. And there's a video of a man so scared that he's on his belly inching towards, and I'm like, that would be me. I'm like,
that would probably be
yelling at him, like, get away from the edge. My mom's yelling at me to yell at him. I
tell her just like I tell her with everything. It's like, how often do I fall when I'm walking? Why do you think I'm gonna fall because I'm walking close to something?
No, it's true. It makes sense.
And my brother always said, it's not a fear of heights, it's a fear of falling. I'm like, well, yeah, of course it's a fear of falling when you're, however,
300 feet.
Yeah, 300 feet off
above the sea.
Of course you're scared to fall.
So everybody seems to know exactly who's going to do this task because it evens everybody out 6 and 6, except Leo and Jamal. And it seemed like the wrong person was doing this task, and if they would have just done it back and forth,
was it the wrong person though? I mean,
yes. If the results say yes, there's no way that's.
But you can't play the what it could have should have game.
We don't know how Jamal would have done it if he would have done any better than Leo did. So
couldn't have done much worse. But I would love to ask them what the mindset was for not keeping the even roadblocks, but we'll get to that. Colin, how did you pass Tyler on the rappel? It seemed like it was pretty. Like they were just kind of controlling the pace rather than you, but he got first.
I was gonna say when you said Australian style rappel, I was gonna say Australian style be lowered down by someone else. But I think he got started before I did, so he was probably 30 seconds ahead of me at the top, and then we basically got to the bottom at exactly the same time, I think. So I kind of caught him along the way, and I think like I was just telling my guy like, look, I'm good. You can lower me as fast as you want. Like, go. And so I think the more you're able to kind of stabilize yourself and look, secure on the wall, maybe he was just inching me down a little bit faster. I mean, it took us several minutes to get down. So maybe I just got lucky. My guy was lowering me just a little slightly faster than Tyler's. But
I will say you did look like you had more control on the wall. Like when you were walking down, because at times, and bless Tyler, at times he was just dangling in the air and they were just like dropping him.
Yes. Yeah. And I felt the same way. Like I was like, man, I wish we could control our own descent, because the point is to like jump away from the wall, lower yourself down, kind of lock off, come back to the wall. That's how rappelling works. And so it was weird just being, dangling from a rope. But yes, I probably just kind of got lucky with getting lowered a little quicker.
We also have the best fans on the Races Recap here. Maria said that Jamal said his father was a jeweler and he knew how to use the safe since he was a little kid. Oh, tough.
Oh, man.
Tough. All right, so the numbers.
That hurts.
So Jamal said he should have done this roadblock. He's out there complaining and whining. Leo gets to the safe first, hits the struggle bus. She's going to hate this, but the kings of the race should have known to read the clue. Again, read the clue. You're on the final task, and it keeps zooming in onto the part where it says spin, 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 and land on the first number. Spin, 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 land on the first number. And it seemed at one point when he was done with it, rather than spinning the big wheel, he was spinning the actual combination to try to open it. So he didn't seem like he knew anything about how to open a safe, or you can attest to this. Was it? I mean, you got it on your first try, it looked like. Was that correct?
Yeah, I think I spent a lot longer sitting there staring at the directions because I figured this is not a fake safe. This is a giant bank vault. So chances are it's going to be like, you're going to have to do it exactly right. And I'm looking at all these directions. It's pretty complex. So I read the directions probably at least 3 times thinking this is not going to be super simple. I'm just going to take my time. And then, I went over, I did it the first try and was kind of the first one out of there. So, and the directions were very clear. If you follow the directions, the safe opens.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how that.
Yeah, I felt really bad for Jamal in that moment because I think there's so much pressure that you almost don't see what you can't see.
Yes.
And he's staring at the directions and he's reading it line by line. And you could see that he gives up and sits down, whether, he really sits down or he just sits down to kind of like refocus himself. But it did look like he kept getting caught up on, like, he probably got it right. But when it said to turn, he was turning the dial until it didn't stop, when he should have been turning the handle till it stopped. So who knows?
Well, and interestingly, I think what it was is you do go to the last number 1 and then you go back counterclockwise, but I think you need to do it slowly and you go until that last pin drops in and it will stop. But, so I don't know. And when I watch it back, I see sometimes he's not doing the proper number of spins each way.
Right.
Sometimes he's just going really fast. Like if you get to the last number, you don't want to spin so fast that you miss letting that key drop in.
Yeah.
So, I think he just got stuck and it was probably something simple. And there's just so much pressure in that moment. It's like, and that's the point of like trying to practice something like a meditation, is so that when you're in those super heightened situations, you can take a breath. And what you want to do is know that 100% of your processing ability is going into reading the directions and opening the safe, not worrying about this or worrying about that, or having, any thoughts that you're having about anything that's not opening the safe is just not helping. It's just a waste of time and a waste of,
Yeah, so
100%.
to get into that flow state is
And
so
for
vital.
all the future racers out there that could be watching this, I think it's such a learning moment here, is because you're going to get frustrated at some point in the race. You're going to hit the wall. What you have to do is recognize that you hit it, take a step back and completely remove yourself from whatever you're doing in that moment, recenter, figure out what your plan of action is. Like Mom and I had it in Paris with that stupid rap.
Yeah.
Actually, yes, we like step it away. Mom's trying to still like read the sheet. You see me snatch it from her because I was like, we just got to stop. We got to stop for a second. What's our plan? What are we going to do? Let's just recenter it. And then we did that, and she got it the very next time. So sometimes you just have to take a step back, take a breather, and then hit it.
Yep. So watching this task, Colin crushes it on his first try, runs out and can't find the taxi, which allows Tyler and Korey to catch up. But before we get to that, just if anybody was worried or didn't understand how much of a beast Colin was, how heavy was that door? Because you just like opened it and it looked like everybody else had to use their feet to just get it barely open. How heavy
I'm sure the door is very heavy. But, it's on.
He just opened it like a refrigerator. He's like, what's in the fridge tonight?
It's pretty heavy. It was a legit vault for sure.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So
And that perfect hurdle he does on the way out. Did
You
see
know?
that?
A lot of hurdles out of Colin in this season.
I love jumping over things.
So Colin, you guys got out of your taxi while it was almost still moving, and you didn't kind of see where it parked. What was the drama with the taxi?
Yeah, so as we got to we didn't end up with a fantastic driver. He was great, it all worked out. But as we got there, we were somewhat behind. We saw the other teams, they were already running into the building. And I think Leo was already well inside. And so we told him, like, okay, cool, we're going to hop out here. We've got to run over there. Like, go park over there with those other cabs. There was 2 other cabs
parked together. So the other 2 cabs were parked side by side. As soon as we saw the route marker, we jumped out because we had somehow, some way gotten so far behind from the airport to the roadblock.
And it was maybe half a block, but it was kind of bumper to bumper traffic. So instead of, sitting in there for another 2 or 3 minutes, we just said, look, go park over there by those other 2 cars. We're going to go grab our clue and we'll be right back out. And yeah, I think what ended up happening, we talked to him about it. And I think what ended up happening is he said he was having some kind of hard time getting through the roadblock in the road. So then he was just kind of driving around, I don't know, trying to
stay in the area, but he somehow could not get, I'm not sure the route that the other taxis took to get where they were parked, but according to him, he was not able to figure out how to get over there. So he's just sort of driving around, staying in the vicinity.
Did he know the importance of that day for you? Like, did you get him and say, look, we're keeping you all day?
Yes.
We had already fed him probably at least $200 just in that first 20 minutes.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we had saved all our money. So we were like, the second we got in, we're like, here's your first 100. Like, we are going to be feeding you these all day.
Yes.
And like, you have got to just stay with us, be ready, and so as we approached the first, that first challenge, it was only maybe 20 minutes from the airport or something. We're like, look, here's another 100 and we're going to keep these coming. Don't you worry. So we made it fairly clear, like, we definitely want you to be here.
Yeah. And they told us we had to stay on, keep hold of our taxi. So we couldn't just decide to go with a different taxi. That was part of the additional information.
Oh, really?
No,
Yeah.
I heard you say that during the episode, because when y'all were running around, when you said that, I was like, oh God, because I was very afraid that y'all weren't going to be able to find it, and that was going to be like the nail in the coffin for y'all.
Yeah,
That
so
would
were
have
we.
been nice to have in our extra info.
Yeah, I mean, we only started that final leg with $140, so I don't know how to. You guys had like hundreds.
Well,
Yeah,
we
we
were
had
saving
500.
up. We were saving up throughout the race, and you can sell things that you get along the way.
Right.
So we couldn't beg for money, but if we found something, we could sell it. So we were definitely doing that.
Yeah. And how we eventually found the taxi, this was Colin's brilliant idea, is we ran over to where the other two taxis were parked, and they were able to contact him because obviously we don't have cell phones.
Right.
So they were able to contact him and let him know, we're looking, your people
Come
are
back
looking
to the
for
area,
you.
right.
That's
Meet him
huge.
at this corner and that corner, and that's how we end up running down and meeting him, because really there was no other way to get a hold of him.
That's a super fan move. That's for sure. That saved your leg
Saved
right
our
there.
butts, big time. Yeah.
All right, so we're just finished right before. All right, here we go. Colin crushes the task, and then they got to head to Foaling, where they got to beat Mo Diggity, who I've met before.
Yeah.
Wow,
All right.
And they got to play Foaling, which I've only played once, and the place was probably about 10, 15 minutes away in normal traffic. You kind of get there. You guys ever played any kind of Foaling before?
No, we haven't. I think that may be a Detroit thing.
Yeah, I think that's the only place it's at right now.
Yeah. But it was super fun. I was like, man, our kids would dig this.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like as a yard game kind of thing set up with bowling pins and footballs.
Yeah.
Like that, it was actually pretty fun. Like I would have had a good time just hanging out there and.
Reminds me a little of Can Jam.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that.
Also, I skipped this part, but this was a part where we were like, wait a second, is this season 5 Colin about to show up again? Because you kind of flared up a little bit. Both of you were kind of a little tense, which is human and is allowed. But what, again, is there anything that you did to kind of pull yourself back? Did she pull you back?
No, he pulled me back. You're talking about in the taxi?
Well, right before the taxi, he was fired up, and then when you're in the taxi, you were fired up.
Yeah. Well, we were both fired up. I was already getting kind of fired up as he was on the road doing the roadblock. We're waiting there for a while, and I keep looking over to where the taxis are parked, and I don't see our taxi. And of course, I can't go looking because, as you guys know, you have to stay within the vicinity. And so I'm just hoping for the best, but I already know this is kind of like coming. So I've had time to already be processing and stew on the fact that we're going to have to look for this taxi, and he may or may not be here when Colin comes out. I had no doubt, even though we were the last ones in, that Colin would be the first one out. Like that was just like not even the moment I knew what it was, rappelling off of a building, I knew something to do with numbers. Like I had all the confidence in the world. I'm like, he's coming out first, which is going to give us a little bit of cushion to find this taxi. But I'm really worried because I don't know how we're going to do it. And so, of course, sorry, there's
Helicopters.
going by.
They must be on the race.
They're coming to pick you up for the all-winter season.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah. So we're just getting worked up as we're looking for him. And of course, we've already had the conversation with him, letting him know the importance of this leg. We've already given him a couple $100. So And it is hard to detach, obviously, from winning on that last leg. So it's again one of those times, just like doing the roadblock, that I find it was the perfect transmission for the overall intention of what we were wanting to do in coming back on the race, which was finding alignment no matter the conditions. And it's really kind of a show not tell business. And so how can you really do that if you don't get out of alignment? If you're just always in high vibes, you're always happy, everything's always perfect,
And you're like
it's
tested.
not even relatable. You're not even human, right? So to really be able to show that, oh, okay, they do get triggered, like they're still very human. And now is the opportunity to take that breath and find your way back into alignment. Remember what's important, because it doesn't serve us to be upset at this taxi driver right now. Like, we're in the taxi, we're on our way to the next challenge, moving on. So that's
But here's why I think y'all two are so relatable during the season, is because even though y'all do get triggered, I think each of y'all recognized it in each other and was able to pull the other person out of it. So like Colin pulled you out of it in the taxi, and then later in the episode when Colin's kind of getting triggered with the drums, Christie, you're able to pull it out of him and be like, just take a breath, it'll be fine. You did the same thing to her. It just makes y'all so freaking relatable.
That's the promise we made to each other before we came back on. Is we knew, obviously, having been in this container before, that we were going to get triggered. Like, there were going to be things outside of our control that would happen, and that if it happened to Colin, I would hold space for him, and if it happened to me, he would hold space for me. So rather than judging, right, or putting blame, or coming down on keeping score, or allowing the other person's trigger to trigger you, right? If I'm still in this somewhat conscious space, even though he's gone a little unconscious, I can hold that higher vibration. And the idea is to kind of bring him back in. And so, yeah, we had very deliberately made that promise to each other before we started the race.
And it just goes to show, like, pre-planning for the race is huge. Like, recognizing what you're going to struggle with as a team, both individually and as a pair, and having plans and contingencies and just prepping for that is huge.
And it's like the opposite of what, like, when you run, I think, with your spouse, the triggers are like, you can like just look at each other and you're triggered. Yeah. And you guys almost like made that rule of not allowing those triggers to start you, but almost like being the one to end the trigger for the other.
Yes. Yeah, and that's something that we've really worked through in our relationship, because I would say, like, we were, you know, the most of that you could possibly be for the first many years of our relationship. Yeah. I know that there's been many a times where we would just be looking at each other like, what if I just headbutt her in the face right now? You know, I mean, come on, we're being real. You know, we would definitely get under each other's skin big time. And so that's something that we really worked on, and we found that if we can do that for each other in normal life as well, and actually be there to support each other, then we can really conquer the world. I mean, our own world, our own experience, and, you know,
goals.
Yeah,
it has worked really well for us.
Was season 5 a catalyst for you guys in that way, or was this a separate transformation for you in your relationship?
That was my question earlier. Yeah.
It was a catalyst in the sense that we were able to be the fly on the wall, seeing yourself. And, you know, Colin has talked about this a couple of times, in the moment of like the ox and the making the bricks, that I'm packing it, or the Africa scene.
Yeah, there's several times where I thought, you know, for sure I'm going to be vindicated here when this comes out. Like, everyone's going to see just how wronged I was, and just how, you know, right I am in this experience. Like, oh, everyone will see. And then watching it back 6 months later and being like, no, bro, you are definitely wrong. Like, so that's a great experience. That's kind of an ayahuasca-like experience, but just separated by 6 months, you know, where you get to look in on yourself and go, oh, okay, so it turns out I don't know shit. So now where do we go from here?
Yeah, so you get that opportunity. A lot of people don't get that opportunity, but I don't think when season 5 first came out that either one of us were really ready to look at and recognize and take ownership for our part in the play. I think we were still living in that. The editors really, you know,
and blaming each other.
Yeah, blame each other. Yeah. And so there were other things that eventually in our relationship became the catalyst to more of an awakening and set us on a trajectory of personal development and growth, where we could really start to look at our shadow and start to see our own part in the play and start looking inward and healing ourselves and those bruises in the body that get triggered, right? And as you heal those, then you don't get triggered so easily, and you're able to maintain consciousness for a lot longer. And you
I think that's
suddenly look at each other and you realize, wow, you shifted, and so have I, and the relationship has shifted as a result. And then you are able to start maximizing that.
I think the healing,
another level.
I think the healing part on a lot of my internal scars is not healed, and I don't know if until they're healed, if I'll be ready to be on your
wave. Because I feel like we still like we see our season differently. Still, like he. Not that he, like, I'm not pointing fingers, but he doesn't see what I see when I watch our season together. He doesn't see how things he says like affect me, or I guess, and I also don't see how things I say affect him in a way. But I feel like when I grow up, or when we grow up, we want to be like you. like that's what I think. When I grow up, I want to be Colin and Christie.
I did tweet that a couple episodes ago. When I grow up, I want to be Colin.
Well, relationship is really a fast track when you treat the relationship as a spiritual practice. And what I mean by that is just as an opportunity for development and growth, is that the person in your primary romantic relationship, they really are reflecting, they are the biggest mirror reflection. So everything that you're sort of projecting outward onto them is really like, that is where you go, actually, if I notice it living in them, then it means it lives in me, because if it doesn't live in me, I couldn't even notice it in the first place.
Well, it wouldn't trigger me. It would just be like, oh, they exhibit that behavior, whatever. But when you're like, they exhibit that behavior, there's something there.
How long were you together when you filmed season 5?
A year.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 years, and we'll be 18 years in September.
Okay.
Congratulations. Sorry, let's finish this so we can finish the interview with Colin and Christie.
Real quick, before we leave the Roadblock, can I just say one thing too? Because this had to be a huge like relief for Tyler, because when he was in his season, the last led Roadblock really tripped them up as a team, and I know that he probably carried that with him. Like, I don't have conversations one-on-one with Tyler, but I imagine that's something he held with him. So being able to hit this Roadblock, chill it, and just like keep on moving probably was a huge point for him that kind of just got glossed over in the episode, but I wanted to point that out.
Yeah, and he has said those words.
Yes.
Has he? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. It was awesome.
All right, so you show up.
Kind of a bummer, by the way, on his season that like it just so happens that he's like 5'5" or 6 or whatever he is, and the challenge is to like jump really high to get this clue, and the guy is up against us some 6 foot something.
Right.
Like I was like, man, that's pretty rough. You know what I mean? Like, but
what are you gonna do?
Guys.
Yep.
So you show up, and a couple of gamers are sitting there, almost done. But you first ball you throw, you get 9 out of 10.
And then it takes me a lot more balls to get that last freaking pin. I guess you played bowling, but I was blown away by the fact that if you got the ball to land, it could land like 3 inches in front of the pin, and it would just bounce straight up over the pin. I'd be like, how is it not knocking this thing over?
Yeah, and most people who play are drunk, because it's an indoor drinking game, pretty much.
That's what I should have done. Got the first time in my life to play bowling.
Take some shots.
So Tyler and Korey finished just before Colin and Christie. I would have liked this task a little better if both teammates had to finish the actual foaling, because it was both teammates were playing, so both teammates should have finished. But what are you going to do? You're heading to Jack White's Third Man record shop. You got to make 5 two-tone records. That's about 10 minutes away from where you were under normal traffic. Tyler and Korey make 1 record, and it seems like Colin and Christie show up right behind them. And then I think one of the errors that they made, and you have to let me know if this was possible, Tyler and Korey finished their 5. They know that they messed up 1 or 2. And then while the guy is checking them, could you continue making them? Or could you make 6? could you make 6 or 7 and make and then hand it in, or did it have to be 5?
I don't remember. Do
I
you?
mean, yeah. So I don't know if you could have kept making them.
While they were being checked.
We just made 5 and got them checked.
Yeah. We just did it so easily,
Well,
which was great.
No, but I don't know. It's pretty quick to get them checked. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Yeah.
I think they had to figure out, okay, do we need to make more? How many more do we need to make?
Mhm.
And it was a simple little thing where one of the labels was flipped around, you know, where because you're supposed to be able to, like, I guess, spin the record, and no matter how you spun it, the label would always be upright. It was something like that.
Yeah, so that can be kind of complicated and could take a while to get. So who knows? They're not showing everything.
Yeah.
You know, there's
And
the
we
creative
messed
editing.
up some doing that same thing and had to
Yeah.
but noticed it and remade them so that by the time we got it checked.
Yeah, we didn't get it right on our first try. It makes us look like total badasses. Like,
Oh,
we got it right
okay.
on our first try, but we did not. It took us. I mean, but it didn't take us that long.
We
was
flipped
still,
over the
yeah.
labels and redid them.
All right, then you got to head to Hart Plaza, which is like about 5 minutes away under normal conditions. Assemble a 5-piece drum kit while the Seven Nations Army's being blasted in the background.
Be glad Floyd wasn't in this, because as a previous drum major, I cannot tell you how many drum sets I put together. And literally, like, it's just second nature to hit that snare strainer up, which is what y'all, like, was the thing with y'all. Like,
Yep.
But like when I'm putting it together, that's just second nature. So be glad Floyd was not there so much.
I've already thought about that, and I've already talked about it, and it's just interesting, yeah, because I really do feel like in that final 3, Team Fun would have really given us a run for our money, like big time, even just considering all the challenges that were presented.
That drum major is coming in handy a lot in this season.
handy.
It really was.
For sure. He's also just a genius.
Yeah, he's
I mean,
pretty smart.
He's not just a drum major.
Exactly.
He is just a genius. He's extremely intelligent, incredible memory. I mean, he's a super, super smart dude.
So was it as close as they made it seem? Were you both missing the same one little piece at the same time where either of you could have gotten it?
Yeah, that was close. That's exactly how it was in real life. Like,
on our season, they made it look like us and Joey, it was a lot closer, but we were 10 minutes behind them. Like, we never got checked at the same time to possibly win. They got checked.
Yeah, we were all there at this. We were there about 10 minutes before they were, but overall, we were there for like a long time.
Well over an hour.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
we had the drum sets put together fully, except for the missing link, you know, for each one of us respectively for quite a while. It could have been either one of us at any point in time.
Yep.
Our other question, this is the moment that James Earl was talking about when Colin's getting a little frazzled and you guys pulled him right back in, got your little Zen moment. You said, like, let's talk telepathically. Did you find a piece right after that, like they edited it?
Yes.
Exactly like they showed it. It was an instantaneous thing. And honestly, like, that's what did it for us. Like, and I was right on the verge of just like,
you can see when I stop you, you can see the sweat dripping from his nose. Like, it was hot, it was loud.
I ran back and forth to that example drum set 1,000 times. You know, I was thinking I had some little angle wrong or something.
And there was like an intuitive hit that came in, really, that said this is more of a fine detail, not anything to do with the angles, because you guys know when you're doing these challenges, they can get very. But we were
you did tunnel blind.
exact. We were so precise, and I said no, it's something obvious. Like I even had a picture that I could see our friends and our tribe at home watching the television, and I could see the little highlighted whatever it was wrong, and you have this. I don't know if you guys had this experience, but on the race, multiple times, especially when we were doing the rowing and this was happening in the drum set, you can, it's like there's no time space. Everything's happening all at once. And so at the same time that we're putting together the drum set, we can also see our tribe and our family at home on the couch, like screaming, what is wrong? And so when Colin, who does say, we've got to call in the angels and guides, I'm going, well, if we want to go from high beta, which is where we're in a panic, and we want to get into alpha, right? And we want to calm the central nervous system, which is really what it is about getting into flow state. We need to take a moment and take a breath. And in that space, that is when you can access a higher intelligence. And it comes through just intuitive knowing. Everyone has that ability to access this like infinite intelligence, but you have to know how to get into a flow state to do it.
Wow.
And that was, I knew the attention to detail, and he builds drones for a living, so I knew he would be the one to see it. But I, at that point, was the one who had the ability to hold the space, was in the more conscious space to remind him, and to also the eye gazing. There is an activation that happens there. That's a very real moment that can bring someone down into that space. And it literally, we did that. He looked over, saw the flip, picked it up, brought the judge over, and that was that.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, wow.
That's crazy. Like, if people, who don't believe in all of whatever that you're talking, like, just you're proof, and you've proven it on more than one occasion throughout this season, that it's real. Like, and vibes are real, and positivity is real. I love it, and legit, I really appreciate that, man.
Yeah, you can call it really. It doesn't. It's. I just think of it as we all have.
Hold on, you guys hear that?
Yeah.
What is that?
Feedback.
We don't hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear
It's
it.
gone now.
It's gone now. Whatever it was
Okay.
awful.
Okay.
Sounded like aliens.
Well,
We're talking about angels.
It might be. It might have been.
Yeah, we better shut them down.
wait a second. It's all happening at once?
Yeah.
All right, you guys look at each other, do your Zen, get rid of that, whatever that was.
Yeah. You can call it, but it is just this ability. It's what extreme athletes are doing when they get into flow state, and it's ability.
Shane can tell y'all about that.
Yeah, it's timelessness, it's spacelessness, and you access just another level of intelligence. And everyone has the ability to do it. Practicing meditation on a regular basis can allow you to access it quicker. So, right, not anyone could just be in the middle of that drum situation and take a breath and be able to access it. But the practice is what allows him to go from beta to alpha right away, and then be able to look over and take in more bits at any given moment and see it. So call it what you will, but that is, but that's how it happens. It's calming the nervous system and accessing a different brainwave.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Zen moment, boom, instantaneously get it. Head off to Fort Wayne, 10 countries, 18 cities, 25,000 miles. 15 years later, you guys win the amazing race and then smack Phil in the ass.
We needed a good spanking. Long time coming.
Congratulations on incredible transformation in your personal lives, redemption on your amazing race journey, and literally cementing yourselves as one of the best teams to ever run the amazing race, and people can't argue with that.
No, and I think you're going to go down as one of the most liked and likable winners. And it's not just because y'all were like blowing smoke up people's asses the whole season too. Like, y'all had times too where y'all like got Brittany too, when like Rachel was coming over to y'all and be like, "Is there any way?" And you literally like, "Nope, no way," and you just shut it down. So it's not like you were like trying to like make everyone like you. Like, that wasn't your goal. Y'all were just running your own race. You weren't threatened by anyone else. Y'all were just focused on yourselves, and y'all ran what y'all wanted to run.
That's right. And bottom line is, like, when you do the work and you just clean up your own stuff and you get rid of at least a good portion of that dense energy, you just see people from a different perspective. You see the good in everyone. And Christie would do this practice with us every time we'd be flying into a new city, when everyone else is kind of talking about who they're going to be U-turning, how they're going to get this, that, and the other. She would walk us through every single team, and we would talk about all the things that we loved about each person. And we would find, okay, what can we find about this person that we can really be appreciative of, that we can really honor, that we can really genuinely say, I love that about that person. You can find something about anyone that you can find appreciation for, because what we appreciate in others is what we appreciate in ourselves, and what we don't like in others, what we don't like in ourselves. Is pretty simple.
But the reason we're doing that was because again, working at a higher energetic level, less of a three-dimensional, like, okay, yeah, there's these physical tasks and we're going to have to do that. But energetically, we're accessing that frequency of love. And so the fastest way for me to do that is to look at all the other teams and find all the reasons I like and love them, because that's the frequency that's going to allow me to be a cooperative component to actually do my best in this race. So it's more, working at just this higher level.
It also shifts you out of the like scarcity thing of like feeling like you're going to lose or you're against all these people. And it just puts you in such a better place to be able to take on whatever is presenting, to be looking for what's good instead of what's a threat.
Right.
Yes,
Exactly.
Totally. That's right.
Exactly. And I think the other teams could genuinely feel like, even when I'm telling Alyssa, like, sorry, but no, what's being transmitted is, hey, I like you. I love you. It's all good. But sorry, a minute ago, you guys were trying, really, trying to get everyone to vote us out. And we're the last two remaining. And at this point, this is strategically to stay in the game. This is the best move for us. And so it could even allow other teams, when you're in that place, to not take it as personal either.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get to the awards, and then we'll do some questions. And you guys have given us a lot of your time, and we really appreciate it. You guys are incredible. Thank you for coming on. But anybody else that's watching, thumbs up, like, subscribe. More than half of the people that watch the show have not subscribed to the channel, and you watch it every single week. So why not subscribe,
guys?
I don't spam you with anything else. I can literally be posting stuff all day, but I only bring the recaps. Just throw a little like and subscribe. All right. So how far?
Well, let's get to our awards.
Okay, let's do the awards first. All right. My super fan move, we'll start with me. Super fan move. I mean, obviously, I'll wait. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm
putting Jamal in check.
I know you're going to do
that. Just because in that moment at the finale, I feel like they came that far, they got redemption, and it's very easy, as we all see, to sit outside the task and to be upset and what's going on. But just a little bit of sympathy for what his partner must have been going through. I think that's part of being a good partner. So Jamal's getting put in check for not being supportive.
Super fan move. Gonna give it to Colin for finding the taxi and using the other taxis to actually find the taxi, which was super smart. Had that not happened, that could have been the race right there. You lost your taxi, and I didn't know that you couldn't switch taxis, so that makes it even crazier that if you didn't find your taxi, you're done. So super fan move for being smart enough to use the other taxis to find them. Mm-hmm. James Earl, seal clapping. Who's getting it?
So y'all would not be able to predict who's doing my seal clap. I'm actually doing my seal clap to all 6 of the finalists because every single one of them came back for a redemption season, and all 6 of them placed higher than they did in their previous season. All 6 of them.
Oh.
So I'm giving all 6 finalists my seal clap.
That's great. That is a great seal clap.
That is.
I am giving the Extreme Move Award to Christie for, in the pressure cooker moment of that final challenge, having the wherewithal to pull back, breathe herself, and ground herself, and then give the opportunity for her partner to do the same, and knowing where his skill set was to get that final detail and win $1 million and the Amazing Race.
That's the move of the race. That was the move of the race. Right there.
I mean, that won the million. That moment right there won y'all the million. Now, there was a lot of steps to get y'all to that point.
Right. But that was the crux.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So how far were Tyler and Korey behind you?
So I think, what's her name from Rob Has a Podcast? She looked that up.
Yeah, Jess. Yeah. I think it was a lot more. It was a lot further than what they show. In fact, the footage that they're showing of them going to the final is actually when they're leaving the foaling.
Oh, wow.
Right?
The record place.
Yeah, leaving the record place. Yeah. So I think it was quite a while, maybe another 30, 45 minutes.
Okay.
And how about Leo and Jamal? Because I was looking at the shadows.
Those shadows were real deep.
Nerdy. But I was
real deep.
The shadows were a lot longer.
Yeah.
They were a while back, yeah.
Yeah, supposedly they
guess
went
is-
through the other challenges really fast. Although, I mean, at that point, I wonder how strict everything was, especially like
like
at
the
the drum
drums,
set.
you know, it's
Yeah.
like you get it pretty much there. You're like, yep, good, you got it. You head to the finish line because
Really, you just
the
sit
other
all
things are
Sid's
checked
drums
in.
on the stage, and they're like, yeah,
That's right.
close enough.
Good enough.
You know, there's no
The pop-
point in like sitting there for 3 hours making them sweat some lever.
Yeah.
Yeah, paparazzi never finished the building their chairs task during our season either. So they just leaned it up against and they were like, just go. Just go. Okay, there was a lot of things unaired this season that we thought should have been aired, like the extreme roadblock or the task that the first task of the Amazing Race when you guys are digging through sand and you got to pull down the kite, get something. Never showed that. Was there a final memory challenge that didn't air this season? Because that seems to be the rumor.
No, there wasn't. There was one challenge they took out of the or one route marker that they took out of the final leg, which was going to this kind of like street art, neighborhood art project place where there was all this kind of random like junk trash art, and there was like 50 clue boxes, and you had to run around all the clue boxes to try to find a clue. They didn't show that. And there was a bunch of other stuff, obviously, they cut out throughout the season.
Yeah,
but no, there was no memory challenge.
I mean,
Yes.
how do you cut out the creator? But no memory challenge, so that's not
No
true.
memory challenge.
And everyone, of course, was taking copious notes, studying at the rest stops, you know, quizzing each other. I mean, it was like, golly, how much time we could save.
And that honestly puts a lot of pressure into who does the first roadblock too, because if you're thinking there's a really tough memory challenge coming next, like you really want to save your memory batter for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry, I have to jump in and just ask a question because my parents are watching Charlie while I'm doing this. But Melissa and Michelle and myself, is there like a spirituality philosophy specifically that you practice, or books, or a podcast that you recommend kind of starting with? I just feel like listening to you, and now that I guess I'm a new mom and we're new parents, like I want to be the best version, or we want to be the best version of ourselves that we could be for our son. Anything that you recommend kind of getting started with to be like you?
we did put together a 6-part, it's a free video series at colinandchristie.com. It's called Igniting the Flame. And it introduces basically how, you know, it's all about cultivating more intimacy, sensuality, sexuality inside your relationship.
I know Justin would be happy
it
with
gets
all
to
that.
holding safe space. It goes over how to create safe space so that you can share at a deeper, more authentic level. It introduces some of the tantra practices that we do in our practice. And also by the 6th video, it really gets into what it looks like to treat your relationship as a spiritual practice. And it includes, the foundation of that is includes reading a book called The 4 Agreements, which by Don Miguel Ruiz. So that's a really good one to start
Conscious
with.
Parent.
Yeah. Also, The Conscious Parent. I highly recommend that book.
Okay.
That's treating your relationship with your child as a spiritual practice.
Man,
Which,
once you get this one solved, that's the next challenge.
Yeah.
Because you want to talk about a good mirror.
yeah.
Woo!
Wait till your kids start talking back to you.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
Y'all are gonna love that.
Yeah, that's a good one. So both of those books are great place to start. But the video series is really a lot of the low-hanging fruit that we do practice on a regular basis. That if you're brand new, it's great. It's not going to intimidate you or turn you away. It's going to really like ease you in. But also if you've been on this road for a bit, it's going to be great reminders in there as well. And this is like our dharma. This is our thank you that the universe sort of allowed the cooperative components to unfold for us to go back on the race. And we saw the bigger picture and the story arc that had the possibility of happening. It was part of our bigger intention. We knew people would wonder what you guys are doing. So we put together this video series to let people get a window.
Well, she's going to have to go, but we got a couple
It was
more.
so good to meet you. Thank you for being on.
She
You
said
can't hear us right now.
Yeah, she can't hear you. That's okay. Take the dog with you. Go, Coop. All right. So a couple more questions, if you don't mind. Got a bunch of them here.
We just dropped our kids off at a camp for 3 weeks. So we're like free. We have so much time right now.
You guys
Y'all
are
are about to have a great 3 weeks.
Now I know why you're talking about ayahuasca. You guys are out by a waterfall waiting for the sunset. You guys are like, okay, as soon as this is over, we can get business. All right. You did mention tantric. Is there videos of that as well. No, I'm just joking. Which season was harder for you guys? Season 5 or the current season?
So season 5 was more kind of grueling and taxing on your overall system because our legs were so long, and pretty much every single rest stop was 12 hours except for maybe 2 or 3 where they were letting production catch up. And after you do your interview and all that, you might get 8 hours in your room, and then you're off for another 3-day leg. So the legs were.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Don't worry, we're coming back.
We're
Oh,
here.
they're
Hit the
here.
button on my iPad. Sorry. So the legs were super long, and the rest stops were super short. But then in terms of like overall stress during the leg, this one was way harder. So I would say this one was more competitive and more stressful because the legs were the field was so compressed. And I think the first time that happened, as much as it did this one, was season 30, maybe the last season. Like, they're getting everyone through customs, they're getting everyone to the departure hall, and then they're giving us a 10-second countdown to run out and grab our cabs. And so, I think in Dubai, first place to last place spread of the whole field was like 12 or 14 minutes. So, from a like stress in the shorter leg, this one was way harder.
Yeah. We could get far enough ahead. We were really good at the airport strategy in season 5. So we were typically coming into a country way before
at least the
teams.
last place teams.
Yeah. So we were never worried that we were going to get eliminated pretty much throughout the entire race on season 5. Whereas
till
season
the
30,
ox.
Yeah, till the ox. Yeah. Till the ox was broken.
Hey, you got a book named after that title, man. Come on.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but then season 31, because it's 3, 2, 1, go. Practically every single leg, you're starting.
It's like Hunger Games.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
Hunger
It
Games.
felt more like the Hunger Games.
Yeah,
for sure.
You can thank me for that 10-second countdown out of the airports, by the way.
Man, no, thank you, Jen.
That is trying to
What happened?
stay
Why?
and trying to not get lizard brain during that moment when all of the teams are just going into this major panic, anxious fear state. That's hard. I mean, it's really good though. I mean, it's definitely a testament to teams that have a stronger mental balance to be able to do that.
Yeah. Jen?
Tell me, Jen, what happened? How'd that happen?
So after, I think we were at our pit stop after our first leg in France, and at that point, pretty much every leg had been equalized. And I was like, this is ridiculous that we run kind of rudely through airports in foreign countries and try to sneak our way through lines, and
it makes sense.
And then we're equalized. Like, I'm like, why don't we just start when we're running out the door? So I asked the cast if everybody felt comfortable with that, and they did. And so then I asked production, and then production ended up much preferring running the race because it's complicated getting everything
I think
through.
Once everyone's on the same flight anyways, there's no point in, being a bunch of ugly Americans busting through airports and trying to cut in customs lines and things like that.
Yep.
And we do enough of that everywhere else on the legs.
Exactly. Yeah. Justin disagrees with me.
No, I mean, that's how we won 2 separate legs. It was literally running through the airport and 8 seconds between us getting on a train and then everybody else missing that by like seconds. It was just simple little things that we did that got us ahead, and that was one of them. But hey, I mean, if everybody's equalized, I always feel like we have an advantage. So it doesn't matter. Like, if everybody's equalized, wherever we're equalized.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a belief that I have in myself, and the amount of preparation that we did for the race, that it's impossible for anybody to be more prepared than we were. At least that was my mindset. Speaking of preparation, did you guys do anything different to prepare for this season than you did?
Meditate more.
We had our, I mean, we didn't have a lot of time. It was April that we texted the casting director, March, April, and then we were leaving in June. So Colin paddleboard surfs every day. We already have kind of like our daily practice that we do. So kept that up. I hike, yoga. But what we did do is when we ordered our backpacks, and we have these really steep hills in Austin Hill Country in our neighborhood where we live, and we'd go walk
few miles
run
up and down the hills,
Yeah.
just to like get used to the pack so the bruising would go away, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then watch some old seasons.
Yeah.
Took a bunch of
Watched
notes.
your guys' seasons.
Yeah.
Watched season 30. Watched season 30, and it was like, whoa.
Whoa,
Is a
what did
whole
we sign
other
up for?
game.
Yeah.
It really was. So thank goodness for that, because we kind of had an idea that it was going to be a lot different than season 5, and we were prepared for that after watching your guys' season.
Cool. James Earl, Jen, if you have any, feel free to jump in with questions. I'm just.
Oh, I've been peppering throughout the show.
Okay.
Yeah, we realized that this season was more of a traveling game show than a traveling game show.
All right, this is Charlie. He's going to bed. Say good night to everybody.
Charlie.
Say good night.
Bye,
Oh my
buddy.
gosh. I don't know
He's
how
so precious.
I don't know how he's so.
Look at those two.
Oh, I love
Wow.
this kid so
It'll expand your heart.
much. My heart feels like it explodes in my chest when he smiles at me.
Yep.
And the first time he says "I love you, Daddy," I'm probably gonna cry for like a week.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I can't. All right.
Yep.
Justin, do you feel better knowing that Colin and Christie had to turn down their first invite to All Stars because Christie was pregnant, and then got this most beautiful return?
As Diana has said, it wasn't meant to be for this season. That we should believe that our time is going to come if it's meant to come. It's hard for me to believe that because of how much. I'm gonna get in. I don't know how much you want me to get into it, but
Yeah, come on. Hashtag vulnerability.
Yeah.
So, of how much that winning would, again, literally change my world or change our world. Like, I grew up on welfare, being poor, like breaking a $1 food stamp so I can have 75 cents and buy like a comic book or whatever. Just, I've been through so much, and I felt like this was my one chance to actually be great at something.
I feel that, brother.
And I fell short, just like I feel I do in every aspect of my life. I get to like almost the pinnacle of everything. Like almost like I was 22 years old, making $100,000 a year, working in Miami, living in a penthouse, driving a Mercedes, and by 24 I was broke. And then it's like I would never get back to that. I would never be successful again, and that's always hurt. And I felt like this is something that I was made to do. Like I was born to be on this race. I was born to run this race. It was supposed to win this race. I saw this, and I saw the win, and I saw that changing everything in our lives. Like, we're in debt. I'm struggling just to help my family stay afloat, and that this would have changed all of that. And then it's just so hard to look at it from a different angle and see the lessons or see how is this helping me? How is losing helping me be a better person? It's hard to see that.
No doubt you to where you are right now.
Yeah, and I can
Where is
share our story. So, I mean, it's interesting when I look at our journey 15 years ago. The Amazing Race came into our lives. I had never heard of it. It was through, I was Miss Teen USA. They came asking me, looking, for it. And then it just worked out that it was Colin and I that went on. And the devastation of coming up short after dominating the majority of the leg, and then to see the edit and the storyline and feeling not only did you come up short, but just misunderstood by the world.
Amen.
Your shadow was just blasted out to the world to see. And there's really not a whole lot you can do about it, because even because there's just this one-dimensional idea that people have of you. And it's really, now we have social media, so you can kind of write your own story. But in those days, it was very difficult to do. And it's just interesting how we close the book on Amazing Race, and then suddenly a year later, it dawns on me, I get the idea to just turn it on and watch it as a family show, and we start feeling into the vibration of it. And then I get that hit to reach out. It comes back. Thank God we didn't go on the original All Stars, and I was pregnant, because if we had, there's no way we would have had the opportunity to come back and really tell the story that we were able to tell, because we were much more integrated. You know, it's what makes it beautiful is the arc, is the integration, and we would not have been there on that first time around. We would not have been able to share that, transmit that same story. It really took the journey of that 15 years for it to happen, for us to be able to go on and do what we did. And so when I look back at it, it's like it all unfolded exactly as it was meant to, because it catalyzed this opportunity for us to learn lessons that we're meant to have in our relationship and as us individually. And when we were able to start integrating that part, that's when all of a sudden Amazing Race comes back into our life. And it was funny, last night, Colin and I, we were watching the video we did with Team Fun recapping. And, you know, you asked Jen earlier, what really catalyzed, you know, when did you I had sort of about 8 years ago, a dark night of the soul, where I really was like, I'm done with this relationship. It had just hit rock bottom. And when I really had that resolve, it was kind of like a, right? I really breathed for the first time. And there's that saying, sort of let go, let God. And I think what that is that when you are able to like let go of that pent upness that we kind of hold on to, that angst, we sort of let go. There's a flood of consciousness that starts to enter the body where you're able to see a bigger picture. And I looked at Colin, I was like, you know, that's really, if you listen to the song, this is going to get really, you know, vulnerable, but you went there first, so I'm going. That when you listen to the song Amazing Grace, I was like, listen to the lyrics of that song Amazing Grace. And that's what happened to me in that night. And then I realized Amazing Grace, Amazing Race. This the connection of that and the overall story. So all that to say that, look, you were on just a few seasons ago. You have no idea what is born in you and what, like, the story and the journey that you're on. And it's really about having this faith that you are living your life. You are in that flow and taking inventory of your life so that you can start to see that you are a transmission, Justin. You have this show.
Fact.
You have no idea what your life and your love of Amazing Race and your son and your relationship, how that's affecting other people. It is like a drop in the water, and it just keeps on going. And really feel into that, because you are powerful, more powerful than you know.
That's so awesome. Thank you. One of you ask a question. Give me a sec.
Yeah, bro. I'm just gonna add one thing, Justin. Dude, like I've built multiple companies. I've worked with a lot of different people. Like, man, you are a powerful creator. Your level of passion, enthusiasm, your preparation that you did on the race. There's a reason that our son was like, the green team, holy crap. I mean, like, bro, you got nothing to worry about. And I can promise you, as soon as you stop worrying and give yourself a break and because I've been exactly where you are. When we found out that we were pregnant, I had just had a failed business happen in California. We lost everything. We got a car repossessed. We had to fly back to Texas with our tail between our legs. I'm living in our friend of ours' apartment, paying no rent, had no idea where my next paycheck was going to come from. And then Christie found out she was pregnant in that moment. And I was like, oh man, like the fear that lived in me and how harshly I judged myself for not being there to take care of my family and to not like be the man that I promised Christie that I would be years earlier. Like, it's the moment you can love yourself and let yourself off the hook a little bit and know that you are living your flow. I guarantee you, bro, you are going to crush it. You're already crushing it. Like, you got nothing to worry about.
That's awesome.
With or without the race.
Thank you, man. I can't wait to meet y'all. I really want to feel that vibe,
Same.
that energy, man. I felt the vibe and an energy when I proposed to my wife. It was underneath the Northern Lights. You could physically feel the energy from the Northern Lights. And I feel like that's something like being around you. You could physically feel that energy.
Man.
So I'm looking forward to when we actually
I'm
get
stoked as well. Me too.
Anybody else have any questions?
Love
Ah. Thanks, Jen, for starting that. Thanks, appreciate it.
Did I start that?
That's
I would.
why I love you guys. No, I really appreciate each and every one of you. I mean,
and just think, Justin, next time the All-Stars was meant for me, you, and Jen to race together. That's what really was meant.
I mean, seriously, like I can just feel a really strong season coming. You just never know. It's like you just never know how it's going to unfold, and it doesn't always look the way you think it's going to look. It's like being okay with the idea that you know what your desire is, feel into that, and when it happens, like for me, Amazing Race, a big part of it was I wanted to travel. I didn't want to deal with the logistics, like being a mom. I didn't want to deal with the logistics. And I was feeling like I wanted to spend a lot more time with Colin. And as a coach, like you learn, like Jen, you know, it really is a show, not tell. You cannot tell someone. You really have to kind of guide them there. And so all of a sudden, the race kind of checked all those boxes like, oh, yeah, that's why that's coming back in, because there are all these things I'm wanting to manifest. There are all these things that I desire. And the Amazing Race has the ability in that one thing to really check all of those boxes. I was not expecting Amazing Race. That was actually a surprise for me. That was like the universe going, guess what? You want to do this, 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 and that? This one thing checks all those things for you. So you don't know if it's Amazing Race or not, but it comes in that way. And when you're open to it, when you're aware of it, you can become more receptive to it.
Can I share something with you guys? Because I know we've been talking for like several hours. So anyone who's still here, thank you.
Like this is the longest episode ever in the history of Races Recap. So thank you.
So you guys were in the Tetons when you had this whole like remembrance or whatever it was that you just Amazing Race came back. And I was actually in Grand Targhee, so just on the other side of Jackson, but in the Tetons, in that same space with those mountains, when I said out loud for the first time in several years, because I had applied to Amazing Race and then applied to Survivor and didn't get it on either show. And I said out loud to some friends while I was up there coaching mountain biking, because I was reminded of how much I missed travel of my ski career and being like in these competitive environments and high intensity. And I was like, I would still really love to go on the Amazing Race. And I got a text from a casting recruiter who had seen an old application video the following week. Wow. So if you want to go on Amazing Race, go to the Tetons. Book your trip now.
Yeah, because
so funny.
Because when you talk about the idea of manifestation, it is about getting into the feeling place of what you want to feel. It's envisioning and what you want to feel, and then you have to be fully receptive. You want to be in the receiving mode. You want to be, and so when I'm in that high vibration, and there's not those states. So anytime I'm thinking about when I'm coming from that lack perspective, I don't have this, I don't have that. I'm not in the receiving mode, and that's really the tricky part. And so when you're in that high vibe, full on receive, that's when you want to start manifesting. And we were doing that in the entire race. When we would get first place or we would do really well on a leg, that is when we would together close our eyes and start, this is quantum visualization. We would start imagining what it would be like to run up to the mat, all the other teams clapping as Phil is announcing that we are the winners of the Amazing Race, because we are in full receptive mode at that point in our highest vibration. That's when you want to envision what you want to create, because you are very powerful in those frequencies.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten into the deep stuff. Put it this way, lots of lovemaking, no finishing. Harnessing that energy to manifest. There's some powerful juju.
All kinds of stuff. We could go on for hours.
We did some preparation.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you guys meditate during the race?
At least 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. All right.
This was awesome.
This is amazing. I love this episode.
I should be ending it, but I just don't want to say goodbye. I feel like
I love you guys.
I love y'all too. Like I really am so happy that I'm part of this family, and I really look at this as a family. And would you go back for an all-winter season?
For sure. Yeah.
I didn't know if this was like
All
this. All
winners?
this
Come
is.
on.
Steve's glance.
If it's all winners.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd feel into it in the moment, but my guess is
I
it would
think
probably be a yes. It's the most amazing thing. You guys have done it. Like, what an incredible
The
experience.
most
If
amazing
they
thing.
wait another 15 years.
Hey, I'll come back when I'm 55. Come on, bring
The
it on.
next iteration of Colin and Christie.
We
Yeah,
won't be mom and dad. We'll be grandma and grandpa.
That's right.
and still probably be jacked and beautiful. Like you guys are just
Seriously.
incredible. It's like, come on. All right, guys. Anything else before we say goodbye?
No, this is. I loved every minute of this
Yeah.
episode.
So glad you
Thank you
Uh,
guys. Thanks for having us on. Really,
No,
we're so excited to come on.
This is literally the best episode that we've ever done on Racers Recap. So thank you so much. We appreciate you too. We appreciate you guys for coming on. We appreciate every single one of you watching this video. For time is the most precious thing and most valuable thing that you have, and you're spending it with us, and that really means the world to me. I make $23 a month on this YouTube channel during the season, so I don't do it for the money. I do it because I love the show and I love the family that this has created for me. So I appreciate all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
me
guys.
too.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
Love you
Really.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.